It's Spoilerin time, my friends. Yes, that's the music from Cordkillers, our sister show or brother show. We don't really know, but it's another show where we talk about how to find all the things to watch on the internet and then whether we've watched them or not. This show, however, we get to spoil you. We get to talk about something we've watched in a way that is spoilery. And we like to go out and find things that are available out there that are a little different, a little older. This week, Brian Brushwood and myself, Tom Merritt, watched the pilot episode of The West Wing, 1999's The West Wing, Brian.
1999 was a different century. How wild is that to comprehend, given how familiar the type of storytelling they did in this was? Like, they began with a gift. Like, I don't know what this show is, but it's got all the trappings of being a movie. It's fast paced. This is, I believe, the series that introduced that Aaron Sorkin walk and talk segment. Everything is dynamic, the rich sets and all that stuff. The characters, you could see them going in loops, reminding you, because they know they're a pilot, but they set up a problem that ends up resolving itself, maybe, but introduces a bigger problem. Tom, here's the thing I didn't expect out of this at all. I resisted pressing play all day today, and then I pressed play, and I was like, ugh. And I kid you not, 10 minutes later, I found myself hunched over, fully engaged. Like, I understand why people deeply love The West Wing now. And yes, some parts of it did not age well. But I'll tell you one part that did age well was Rob Lowe, who looks exactly the same today.
One of my notes to myself on this was, wow, 24 years ago is a long time. There were so many parts of this that felt modern in execution, but so outdated in relevance. The sort of hand-wringing over who might be embarrassed about what thing getting out. The idea of what was a crazy thing to say on television, an irresponsible thing to say on television, all of that played as like it was from the 50s, given our current climate and what the rhetoric is out there. But the mechanics of it, the sort of the walk and talk stuff, the president behind the Resolute desk, that all felt like it was still current. It was just the rhetoric, the political rhetoric was dated.
Did they invent the phrase POTUS on the show? Like, was that a cultural thing beforehand?
No, I think that's a real phrase that they popularized. I think it was very much an insider term that, because The West Wing revealed it, everybody started using, and now everybody uses it.
Okay. My favorite part,
because that was part of that opening with Rob Lowe, right? Was where he's like, "Who's your friend POTUS?" And I'm sitting here like, "Well, everybody knows what POTUS is." I'm like, "Oh, in 1999, people probably didn't know. That probably was a fun reveal."
What's funny is I pressed play on that and saw all the beepers, and I'm like, beepers. And then I opened up my podcast feed, and on Planet Money, their podcast today was like, why do doctors still use beepers? And it's like, it seemed less silly after that. Here's another thing they did that you don't, I don't want to say you don't see it very often, but I thought was really interesting is, in her book, Virginia Postrel, The Power of Glamour, talks about how glamorous photos always cut something out or they cast a shadow, and that's the space you get to project greatness into. That's why things are glamorous. That's exactly what they did. It's called The West Wing. Remember back when we thought being a president was a big deal and not a punchline? Like, everybody is freaking out left and right about, like, I'm pretty sure he's like this, and blah, 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 blah. They cast a long shadow, and then they portray Martin Sheen. When he walks into that room, he just reeks of authority and folksy wisdom and storytelling and direct, specific, no nonsense action. He is the glamorous fantasy of what everybody wants to believe a president of the United States should be.
Agreed. And they treated him like the shark in Jaws. They like kept talking about him, and they kept worrying about what was going to happen to him. And they even made him seem like maybe he wasn't as big a deal as he should be, because he ran into a tree. Like, how embarrassing is that? And then when the shark showed up, everyone was afraid. In fact, that scene where he like faces down the three religious right conservatives,
right,
was not believable on paper, right? When I was thinking about the words that were said and the reactions that they would have, I was like, those people would never, cave in. They'd have another response. But it was believable emotionally.
In universe.
It was believable that guy, that president, was able to intimidate those three people. Well, and it didn't really matter what he was saying, frankly.
And also that those people would be so crass, direct, and nasty with their language. Like in real life, politics is soft language and gentle discussions and stuff. But they're establishing the rules of the game in this world, right? It's like we're going to move fast and we're going to have high risk and everything is life or death or whatever. Also, keep in mind, there was no going independent. Like when you washed out of the game back in 1999, you were dead. Ain't no open up a Substack for you. Ain't no Patreon or anything like that. It's like that was it. Or at least that's how it felt at the time. But it does not feel, outside of the topics of conversation, it does not feel at all to me like a 1999 show. It feels mid-aughts Sopranos. But I guess stuff like this is why we got mid-aughts Sopranos.
The only things really dated about it were maybe the fashion, the resolution of the video, and some of the political rhetoric, like I said before. But that was it. Everything else felt sophisticated, which I think is a testament to Sorkin. I think we forget that this was new. Sorkin wasn't new. He had done other things like this, but The West Wing really was what made people realize what he was able to do. And that kind of stuff still works. I will say that the part with Mary Walsh that happened before the president showed up felt modern. That was the part where I'm like, I think this scene could still play. I think you could still have a Mary Walsh say, well, let's deal. Here's what I need from you. I felt like that felt like it was out of place back then and more like what you might experience now.
That's interesting, because that actually took me out, because nobody would be so play their hand so poorly in politics as to flatly state, let's deal. It's like
I don't know. I see that happening all the time now, like in public. So I can imagine it happening in private.
Maybe so. Maybe I'm just ignorant of that world. To me, the first episode was an introduction of like, hey, everything is hard-edged. Everything has hard edges. The stakes are always life or death for your career, and everyone is either all the way good or all. It's just the contrast got turned up. I don't want to say cartoonishly, but bigger than I would believe actually happens.
The other thing I noticed were the music cues. I don't know if you ever watched Downton Abbey, but these music cues,
I saw a couple of them,
were exactly the same kind of music cues they used in Downton Abbey. And I'm like, oh, Downton Abbey just ripped off West Wing when they did this. And I'm sure West Wing was ripping off somebody else. I'm not pretending to be the first one to ever do it. But that's sort of like show people being, official and in a world removed from your day-to-day world, and then transition with a soaring music scene as you see them walk through the palatial White House, right? I was like, man, it's like Downton Abbey. This is like the ladies of the house walking into the dining room. You'd hear that kind of music.
Yeah, I in general, I did not. I guess my summary is, I fought all week. I procrastinated on hitting play. You reminded me that we needed to do this, and you said, I am now sitting down to watch The West Wing. And you even sent me a text with the reaction to some moment. And even then, I was like, yeah, that seems like a last minute thing. And finally, I'm like, oh, fine. Just 15 minutes in, I'm leaned all the way in. And
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Couple of minor notes here. I think Josh would actually get promoted for what he said on TV these days versus being afraid to lose his job. And I felt ashamed personally that I didn't see the teacher of the fourth grade class thing coming.
Oh my God. No, I didn't either. I thought that was a fine bit of writing. Bit of writing.
I was like, oh, of course. Like as soon as that happened, I'm like, yeah, that's, I should have seen it coming from as if I were believing this was a real world. I should have also seen it coming as a writing device. Like, well, of course he's having the worst day ever. And that he's going to make it worse by doing. Yeah, that was brilliant. Love that.
Well, and it also hinged on a turn of phrase, which I mentioned in the main show, that we rewatched the pilot for Toast of London, and there was one phrase where it's like Toast's brother came home from came home from a war in Argentina with an amputated hand, and the next phrase was, why didn't he leave it there? Yeah, and it's like, it felt like one of those moments. It was like exactly right phrased.
Indeed. I did see the beeper thing coming, but I don't think it was supposed to be particularly subtle.
I feel like they screamed that this is going to be a whoopsie doodle.
Indeed. Anything else?
No, I'm excited that our current plan is to watch the beginning. We're going to watch the best. Oh, should we go chronological? I guess we should go the best rated episode and then the worst rated episode and then the finale. Is that what?
Yeah.
We're thinking?
That's what I think we're going to do. We're going to do 4 West Wings. That's it. We're not going to do a big season rewatch. We are going to still do the Rick and Morty season summary in the middle of this. So we watched the pilot. Next week, we will watch season 2, episode 22, 2 Cathedrals. That is, according to IMDb, the highest rated episode of West Wing. Then we will pause to review Rick and Morty and come back and watch the worst rated West Wing on IMDb, called Access, season 5, episode 18. And then we'll follow that up by watching the West Wing finale to see how it ended. So
I fell apart.
if you want to follow along with us, that is the plan. Thank you everyone for supporting us. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. If you are a patron, we make an effort to get these episodes to you first. Plus you get After Talk, where we talk about more spoilers along the way, like Rick and Morty episode by episode. So go become a patron if you aren't already. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll spoil you next time.